Jeff, say Bob, everyone.
I'm Johnny.
Hello.
Let me ask you briefly, Anthony, Emmy, did you how did you guys survive the hurricane? How was that for you?
Not too much up in North Florida here. I mean, there were some pretty good winds the day it went through. I mean, we were gusting maybe up to like 60 here, but not too much rain, and it really wasn't too bad. I mean, it just not even comparable to what they're going through in Fort Myers. That's a pretty apocalyptic situation down there. I feel terrible for those folks. It really got hit hard.
Yeah, no, I know, and Goer did all right in Clewiston, but she had a couple of places on one of those islands.
Jeff,
Hey,
what
Bill.
about Marge and Jack? Where are they?
They're in Titusville, which is, I think they did all right because
Is that in Florida?
Marge is right there. Marge, how did you guys do all right there? That's all right. We'll wait. We'll find out
She
later.
might not be close to her computer.
Okay, so
They're near Cape Canaveral and also a bit near, so they were without power for 3 days. Okay.
so Jaysima, can you put up the email? And we're going to have someone with a Panchgani accent to read it. And that's the Nober.
What a privilege, Jeff, when you put it that way. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Yeah, go ahead.
Late night chat, Sunday, October the 9th, 10 p.m. Eastern. Topic: the challenge of forgiving others. In the past, we have discussed the problem of self-forgiveness, and tonight we will explore the equally profound problem of forgiving others. Baba has said that it is impossible for men to forget their wrongdoings and the wrongs done to them by others. And since they cannot forget, they find it hard to forgive. But forgiveness is the best charity. There is a way out, he says, when one turns completely to him, seeking an ever deeper intimacy with him, and he becomes their sole focus. He begins to forget himself and to forgive others for whatever he has suffered from them. And when he has forgiven everyone and completely forgotten himself, he finds that God has forgiven him everything, and he remembers who in reality he is. All this is a very tall order, but it is interesting that it is really in turning to Baba that we can actually forget and then forgive. Here are some questions to consider. We try to bring our struggles before Baba to help us in this process, but rarely does it happen instantly, but plays out sometimes over decades. Any success stories in this endeavor? What happens when you feel you have forgiven someone in your heart, and yet they continue to do the very thing you've forgiven them for? For example, you've forgiven someone for betraying you, and yet they betray you again. Maybe not immediately, but years later. What do you do in this situation with Baba? What role do any boundaries we set play in this? Baba has said, you forgive a wrong done to you in the same measure in which you love the wrongdoer. So forgiving someone you feel very little love for makes the challenge of forgiveness almost unreachable. If you intuit that someone is going to do you wrong at some point, is it easier to forgive them because you have already anticipated their behavior? Does knowing in advance help because you have made a choice? Over time, not forgiving someone can become very burdensome. Have you found it is the weight you are carrying that sometimes inspires you to work with Baba to actually forgive? Here is the common concern. I don't want forgiveness to in any way mistakenly convey to the offender that I encourage or condone their minimize the import of their behavior and find it acceptable. Forgiveness is said to be a conscious and deliberate decision to release, let go of, resentment and/or thoughts of revenge towards a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they deserve it or not. Suppose you feel they don't deserve forgiveness. How does that affect you? In Luke 17, 3-4, Jesus says, rebuke them. If they repent, forgive them. What if they have no remorse? What if they're no longer around? Either they have moved away or passed out of your life? Does time passing make it easier to forgive? John F. Kennedy said, forgive your enemies, but don't forget their names. Question, are we supposed to forget? Is that even possible? Is it okay to remember just without anger? How much do we have to be involved with the offending person, especially if accountability is called for? Is it all right sometimes to keep a distance from the person in the future? This brings up a most important consideration. When the offense keeps being repeated or is ongoing, how do we deal with that? If the person or group in question is not approachable or is in a position of power that prevents you from safely interacting with them, what's to be done? Forbearance. What is that? Patience, self-control, restraint, tolerance.
ها forbearance.
forbearance التحمل بوري.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Do any of these qualities of character help? If we can manage to achieve forgiving, are we supposed to act as if nothing has happened? Is that perhaps a higher, more enlightened level of forgiveness? Is forgiveness necessary? How would it be if we just ignored the whole subject, going about our business without addressing the issue of having been wronged? Or is this another way of giving it to Baba? Since we can't forget what others have done to us, maybe we have to resort to what Baba has suggested, forget ourselves and everyone else in him. Perhaps ultimately, the secret lies in this. Money was often seen to describe Baba's sweeping gesture from his heart for I love you and I forgive you, both exactly the same. In his love, with help from friends, Jeff. P.S. Isn't it lovely that as we get older, we forget a lot of what's happened to us? Jai Meher Baba.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, it's not easy to forgive others, and you know, a lot of the Baba people say, well, my life would be actually so much simpler if I didn't have to relate to other people. But Baba says the path is through people, so we are stuck. And all the kind of inspired ways that we come up with to forgive, to forget, and everything are, I'm sure, entertaining to Baba, and they could be helpful if you folks feel like sharing any of this and your own struggles and successes with the rest of us. So, anybody want to venture out on that topic? And you know, it's not like you have to. You can say something and then come in later on. You know, if something else occurs to you.
Martha.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to start because something just happened. A miracle from Baba just happened like an hour ago about forgiveness. And it's been brewing for maybe 15 years. So it started a long, long time ago. My closest girlfriend at that point knew that the man I was with was involved with my other best girlfriend. And my first best girlfriend didn't tell me. And she knew, and everybody knew. But nobody told me because they were either protecting me probably, or they didn't want to tell me such bad news. Get the picture?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Common picture. Okay. So I was really, 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 really hurt. And because this was supposedly, you know, I trusted this person explicitly, and she cried and she apologized and she did everything. And I just I didn't have any feelings for anything anymore. I was just so hurt. So that went on for a couple of years, and she apologized. And I said, I'm sorry, I want to forget this, but I can't, it's just too hurt. And between her doing that And the man I was with doing that, it was just all too much. So fast forward many, many years. And through this whole time, I really felt so sad that I was such a disappointment to the Lord that I couldn't get out of it. I just felt so hurt and so betrayed. And no matter how much I gave to Baba and prayed, then I just kind of did one of the things that was in this email. I tried to just forget it. But every time things would come up with her, I could feel this holding back of my heart closed and hurt and kind of angry even. So I didn't like it, but I just kept going. And since she was a close friend, we had interaction all the time. She's a Baba friend. Anyway, the pandemic comes and I have an excuse to have very little to do with her. So that helped a lot, actually. It made it much easier for me. But anyway, so the resolution, this is a resolution. So she has, let's see, how can I say this without betraying who she is? She was helping me to do something that was very important in my living situation. She's a property manager of where I live. And I was just didn't want to talk to her about this issue of this other person that's going to come and rent. I was angry that my girlfriend, and I just didn't want to talk to her. I felt that, I couldn't be able to express myself. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, that's enough, Baba. Okay. So I said, listen, Baba, this is ridiculous. I hate this part of me. I've given it to you all these years and I still feel this. So I took it to Baba. I said, please, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to hold this in my heart. This person loves me. I love her. We have Baba. What is wrong with me, Marta? So I told him, I said, Baba. I said, listen, Baba, I have turned things over to you in the last 2 months completely, and you did magical things. And I told you that I gave you my life, and here I am fussing over this. I said, so I'm giving all this to you, but the thing that was different is I'm going to talk to my girlfriend, and she's going to be you. And that's what made the difference. I said, I'm going to talk to Baba when I'm talking to my girlfriend. I didn't even have to think about it another second after that. It was gone. The feeling in my heart that's been there for over 15 years, it was gone. And I felt this whole softness come over me. I saw her softness, and it was just, Baba did it again. So I usually rest my case in anything that we talk about. Give it to Baba, beg Baba, and Baba will come through. The end.
Beautiful. Now, Marta, did you actually talk with your friend? Or okay, so you even actually talked with her and just
a couple of hours ago about this business situation, and of course she has no idea any of this is going on. But anyway, yeah, it was just a beautiful story, and I thought, oh, I'll bring this to the group because it just happened. And
perfect timing.
Yeah, it was
This
nice.
particular session. Wow, fantastic, and so descriptive, and that's, these are the very things we have to deal with. And Baba succeeded.
I constantly disappoint myself so much. My ego really thinks I'm a good girl. I'm really nice. Marion, I'm thinking of Marion when she talks about, but I have to remember what Jeff said, good, bad, it's all the ego saying, I'm good, I'm bad, whatever. So thanks,
Good.
guys.
All right, thank you. That was a perfect way to start out. Anyone else want to venture out into La La Land here?
Jeff, there was one point where you told, we can forgive, but we would like to keep them at a distance. because we certainly know that they would repeat the same things with us again. Is that fine? Like when we forgive, but we just want them not to be in our life anymore, like not to interrupt with.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember I had a situation with somebody, and I knew that if I approached the person, this is slightly different, but if I approached the person, I might actually lose my job here at the center. And I was very, you know, even being honest and everything, but I was kind of worried, and I just as I was leaving India, I just brought it up quickly with Erich as we were getting on the bus. And he, because I didn't want to be a coward, I wanted to kind of stand up for what I felt. And then Erich said, if you know that a horse kicks, do you go around to the backside? And wow. In other words, it's foolhardy. What you're planning to do, Jeff, is foolhardy. You're going around to the backside of a horse that you know does kick. So keep a distance. So if your heart is vulnerable and someone is very likely to kick you in the heart, you know, it's actually wise to keep a distance. You know, don't stumble over a Doberman Pinscher's doggy bowl. You might bump it. You might. So does that make sense, though?
Yeah, yeah, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sometimes I mean, if they changed, you know, you would be there and you could draw closer. But if they have that in them to be hurtful, sometimes it's perfectly, you know, fine to keep a distance.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff. Meher?
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, yeah.
Jeff, this thing what you were this topic I really like, because many people show their ego in many things, the many Baba lovers, and their sanskaras also fall on them. I find that. Like they come to Mehrabad, some people from Bombay, I have noticed, they come, they are at this thing, Samadhi, they will be very nice and everything. And when they come back to Bombay, I find they have all toppled the wrong way. They're absolutely nice, but when you're here, they're absolutely back to their own selves. So I always feel that they should never show their ego out. This is my very great feeling. I go on telling them, be calm, be cool. Baba is always with us, and listen to Baba. I always say, what he says, do in the right way. That is it.
Yeah. You know, the other night we had Vesta Clinton on, and she was very upset about someone's behavior. She didn't speak out about it. She kind of kept quiet. But after a few days, you know, Erich said, you know, what's troubling you? You're not quite yourself. So she kind of confessed to feeling ill will toward this person for their behavior. And Erich said, you know, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. You're being critical of that person, but do you actually have the knowing that can actually help that person? If you're not able to help that person, then you have to let them go. If you don't have that deep knowledge to be able to help the person rather than just being critical of them, then you have to let them go. I thought it was an interesting piece of advice. Tony, do you remember that? Vesta mentioning that? You're silent. We can't even hear the scratching of your head. No.
Jeff, I had actually drifted for a moment. I was responding to
Oh,
a
okay.
private request, and I
Oh,
didn't hear it at all. I'm so
oh,
sorry.
okay.
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah.
could you repeat that? I don't quite get it,
What,
please.
yeah, what Erich was saying to Vesta is, you're critical of this person's behavior,
Mhm.
but do you actually have enough depth to be able to help her? Can you actually help her? If you can't help her, you don't have that depth of knowledge, and he was saying you don't have that you don't know how to help her, then you have to let go.
You mean not criticize her?
Yeah,
Just
I
let
mean,
it go.
let it go. I mean, of course, if they're, you know, doing something destructive, you can intervene. But what I mean is, if their behavior you find unacceptable, morally, say, you have to kind of let it go. If you don't have that depth of knowing, that would be of some help. In other words, being just critical of others is really not helping at all, and it's yeah. Anyway,
Thank you.
yeah.
Gail, Gail and Kippy.
Gail, he's got you on. You see
Okay.
floating around there. Yeah.
Okay. Hey. Hey
Levitating.
guys. Mine is kind of a group thing. It's something happened recently that reminded me of something that happened about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, I worked for a university that I will not name. And we started out as a small group and we got bigger as our building came online and stuff. And I was not one of the, there was a woman who was the executive assistant to the director who became very jealous of me. And she began telling people all kinds of things about me. And I worked for about 7 years with just a really withering situation. And the result was they were able to cheat me out of my retirement, my state retirement. And so I think about that pretty often because as time goes on. And then the situation that, well, I think I did better with the second situation. I've been in recovery a long time. I've been in an Al-Anon situation for a long time. Grew up in an alcoholic home. And so a group that I recently left because it just was, I was accused of being dominant. I mean, and that was so not true. And I couldn't get any answers. And it was, I didn't feel supported because I wasn't supported, although I know that people support me. But I wasn't supported in that. And I had an oversized reaction to it, which really meant to me that I had not dealt with the first situation. I mean, I've done all kinds of things, EMDR, which is eye movement thing to deal with anxiety and situation. So I guess I'm just asking for suggestions. I mean, I hear to forget about it, but and I have left the group, the Al-Anon group, and gone to another. I mean, I just no reason that I need to feel worse about myself. I mean, I was doing service and doing some good things for the group. Is that so vague? I don't even know if I'm.
Well, we'll keep that on on the table because hopefully we'll come around to addressing that type of thing.
Okay.
I think it'll come up because I mean what you're describing is many of us have experienced in one form or another, and it'd be interesting. I think it'll come up.
And if it doesn't tonight, then it wasn't supposed to. So okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyone else dealing with the challenge of forgiving others? Oh, okay. Margie.
Margie.
She's only 24 and she's already dealing with this kind of stuff.
I think this is like the story of all of our lives, but no, it's actually something that I was like hesitant to raise my hand and talk because it's something that I'm dealing with so much right now in my life where I mean, I think like all of us, we all hit a point where we realize that our parents are not perfect. And I think I am hitting a point in my life where I realize that I had thought that I'd forgiven my dad for a lot of the things that he had done. But I haven't. And it's a really hard thing to accept because I think I kind of went more towards almost like the martyr, I'll martyr myself because I'm so spiritual and I love Baba so much that I can just see Baba in him, and it's okay. It's not his fault, but it's like, it's very clear to me that Baba has shown me internally, but that's not always the way to be. And I think it leaves me confused because it's like not a genuine forgiveness. It's a very egoic forgiveness. And so it's it's something I'm struggling in and I work with all the time. And I ask Baba to just show me how to do it because it's hard, is forgiveness like having that person back in your life, or is forgiveness understanding that, you have to I have to protect the Baba that's in me, but then where I get into the problem is like, where am I grieving and protecting the Baba in me versus where am I protecting my ego and my, the human side of Margie, and how do I uncover? I feel like a lot of it is like repressed feeling, because for so long I was like, I just forgive him, and I wasn't really feeling the feelings that I had. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with forgiveness, is I'm navigating it and I don't know where to go.
Yeah, no, beautifully expressed. And hopefully we'll come up with some approaches that people have done. But yeah, where you're saying you kind of just really dissociated from the whole thing rather than to feel it to its depths, just yeah, no, we'll keep that. That's, similar to what Gail was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Idea.
Who was that you said, Jaysima? Marion, why don't you go? Someone.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Marian. Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, he was on mute. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm going to share one experience, very important in my life. So I'm not going to go into a whole long story because it would take forever. I'll say one word and a couple of words and people will get it. It was in a marriage where there was an abusive husband. So I don't need to say more, and I don't need to go into all the details because this is about forgiveness. So that was like the height of having 2 children with this person, and me being a more codependent type, always trying to get love from a source that could not love. And way back then, there was not the psychiatrists and therapists. They didn't even know much about the narcissistic spectrum and narcissistic abuse disorder. It has just come to a wonderful psychologists now who are also reincarnationists who brought the enlightenment to that. So anyway, going through tremendous pain and suffering. However, I was also in training at some point for my profession, which was a certain transformational type counseling where we did mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and brought the whole self together in our counseling work. So trained because in the discourse, it's like Baba has all in the writings, all of the lay of the land and the territory, but not all the how-tos. So I got into all the how-tos that you transform and learning about that. I have seven bodies, and the energy body, which has the emotions in it, does not transform into its higher self unless it is expressed, not dumped on anybody, but not swallowed in the body and create illness, and not dumped on anybody. So that means using all those tools, psychodrama, core energetics, all that I learned. And since I'm a more highly emotional person, I need to release those feelings. So I've learned how to do that, looking at Baba's picture and then releasing whatever's stored in there that I never accuse anybody else of causing, but a person triggered it. So I did a tremendous amount of work on myself to release this human being from my whole psyche and from running all the memories. And so I don't know where it came from, but some spiritual teacher said, when letting go of somebody, talk to their higher self within and say, I ask you to release me to my greater good.
Wait, no. The greater good being, you mean to see the greater good in that person, or your own greater good?
No. If I am released to my greater, release me to my greater good. So I'm speaking to another person to also release me. I can't tell you exactly what it meant, but it's probably it was the ending of a karmic relationship, totally ending. But I didn't have a lot of words for it. But if some teacher who told me about, say to the other person, I release you to your greater good. And so without a lot of explanations, because I did all the work. So that wasn't just a phrase I came up la-di-da in my life. I did all the exploration. I did all the psychodrama work. I did the killing him off about 50,000 times. I did all of that in grounded work. And so to release that, and I studied why I chose that kind of person. And I came to know spiritually from some very good teachers, he was the right person for me spiritually, because my coming to Baba came through that pain. I was near suicide. And through that, rather than that, I won't go into the details because I'm writing about it. Baba grabbed me. So that person was the right person spiritually, and I knew it. On a human level, I learned, don't even go out and have a cup of coffee with that type of person. Just do not be around them. So it took decades of learning. So somewhere along the way, and he's no longer on the earth plane. He died in 1995. But I did all this work, and I'm saying, I release you to your greater good. I won't go into an explanation because I knew what that meant. I mean, really releasing out of my karmic attachments, everything. And then I live in New York City, so not everybody knows the streets here, but I was walking up Columbus Avenue. He was still in his body here. And I was digging up an old memory, and I knew that was not healthy. I didn't need to do that anymore. I didn't need to dig up memories anymore. I'd cleared those, but I was digging it up, and I was walking down the street, and I said, I release you to your greater good. And then I heard, it was my higher self voice said for the first time, and I release you to yours. And there was I knew the karmic back and forth of this soul's manifestations on earth was over, finished, done with, totally released. I experienced it there walking up Columbus Avenue. And it was an experience. So since that time, I know it was total forgiveness because there was no more attachment to this person, not to the pain or not to the longing or not to what I'd been through. There was none. So it came through, that moment came through decades of doing the inner work of releasing emotions out of my subtle body and doing the grounded work and getting a lot of help to get to that point. So that's what I'm emphasizing. It didn't come all of a sudden, I'm saying that thing and I'm released. No, I did the inner work. I did the work of expressing my lower self, getting help, turning it over to Baba, but it didn't happen a snap of a finger. It took decades, took a long time. But there is no more karma with that soul in manifestation into this plane, none.
Beautiful.
There's no attachment, so there's total forgiveness because there's no attachment.
Yeah. Now you can enjoy love with each other, loving each other, so to speak.
And it's what Baba says, love is not an emotion. It is a right action, is the highest form of love. So I don't have an emotional I love you toward this person. It is with the highest intention to release that and never have that again. And I know I'm being taken through that now with my children and grandchildren, all deep karmic attachments I'm being taken through for total detachment. So I just want to say it came through all that grounded work psychologically and spiritually to get to the place of where I experienced that. Walking up the avenue, there was no more attachment.
Yeah. Beautiful, Marion. Great. Very, very vivid and descriptive and helpful. Okay.
Peter?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I wanted to ask, I have a couple stories that I wanted to read. I combed through the real treasure, and I found one story that had the dynamics of husband and wives I thought was very revealing. And there's also one of my favorite stories in the real treasure called The Power of Love. And it's a long story. It's like 8 pages, so don't, it's people's choice, but it's in sections. Would it be all right if I read some of the real treasure?
Yeah, I wouldn't read the 8 pages, but you said there were 2. Yeah.
Right. And that is, it's a dynamic of husband and wives, which is very telling. But, before I do that, I'll just say as brief as I can. I remember when I got clean, about a year after I got clean, my therapist asked me if I had forgiven my father. And in my ignorance, I said, yeah, I think I have. About 20 years later, I reunited with the same therapist, and he said, Peter, it was pretty obvious you hadn't forgiven your father. And I was surprised in all that. And I'll say to my chagrin, out of all the work I've done, I never ever thought I'd be this bitter at my age. I really didn't think so, because the depth of bitterness and ill feeling with my dad is so deep. I don't know if it'll ever be released. So, all right, this story is, I'm trembling. It's volume 3. It says, Overcoming Resentment Through Remembrance. All right.
Is this with Eric or?
This is between Eric and Rustum.
Okay.
All right. The following incident happened when we were fighting to close down a polluting chemical factory on the Marizad approach road. I was doing the spade work in the fight, collecting evidence against the polluting factory. For this, I had to visit various government offices located not only in Nagar, but also in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, Aurangabad, and Nasik. Forgive the mispronunciation if there's any. As we collected more and more evidence of irregularities, factory owner realized that he was getting trapped. He started printing false newspaper reports against us and the trust activities. The newspaper articles were outrageous and complete distortions, and this would infuriate me. I would go to the newspaper offices with clarifications and threaten them with dire consequences if they did not publish the facts. Seeing my anger, Erich would try to calm me by saying, "Why do you get angry, Rustum? Do what you have to do. Be firm, but not angry." I would reply that anger kept the fight going for me. Without it, I said, I won't be able to carry on the way I am doing. Erich would just sigh, nod his head, and say nothing more. On another occasion, when I was angry with the factory owner, Erich commented, "Rustum, get over the anger in your heart for the factory owner. Do not resent him like this. If you don't do this, the two of you will end up being husband and wife in your next life." By the way, if anyone laughs at this, please unmute your phone. Invite you to mute if you want to laugh. The God in me wants to hear, or the Peter in me wants to hear it. I laughed, and so did the others who were around. One of the residents, who always liked pulling my leg and picking on me, asked who would be the husband and who would be the wife. I think Rustam will be the wife and the factory owner will be the husband. When the resident continued to tease me about this, I turned and said, it does not matter whether I am the husband or wife. Either way, I will harass him as I am doing now. Erich laughed, and so did everyone else. Erich then said very seriously, you have to get over your resentment. When you don't do that, then Baba puts you into relationship in your, when you don't do that, then Baba puts you into a relationship in your next life where you are forced to face the resentment, overcome it, and love one another. Usually such people end up husband and wife, and often fail in their relationships and land up divorcing one another. The resentment from the past life continues in a present life, resulting in divorce, and now will be carried forward in the next life into a relationship as mother and child, whether they will be forced to love one another. Here too, we find children having differences with their parents and breaking off the relationship. This goes on and on until the two souls learn to love one another. It is like that. After Erich narrated this, I asked him, what should they do if the situation becomes intolerable as years pass by and their dislike for each other increases? Erich paused and said, try to remember Baba more and more and bring Baba into the relationship. That should help overcome the dislike and resentment. I persisted. What if the resentment persists? What should you do then? Erich sighed and said, well, if through remembrance of him, you succeed in working out the resentment and creating love, that would please Baba. As far as I'm concerned, love means forgiveness. But if the situation is absolutely intolerable, then one should live separately or separate from one another. However, it's important that you harbor no resentment after that and maintain a friendly and harmonious relationship. Be loving towards each other, at least from a distance. You have to love everyone, no matter what their personalities, if you really want to love Baba and feel his love for you. So after separation, remove the resentment and create love. After that, try not to get involved in the falseness of worldly love and instead long for divine love. If at all you want a companion again, make Baba your companion. Marry him, have a relationship with him. He will never fail you. He's the only one who will be with you from the very beginning till the very end.
Beautiful. Yeah, right.
I want to comment, but I'll do it later on. I can't stomach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was very pertinent. Okay.
Anthony.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. That was great. That was really touching hearing that. J Bob, everyone, great to see you all again. I've finally made it to a late night chat. Emmy and I wake up early for work, but we're like, we gotta try at least to stay awake. No, this topic it's so deep here, and of course, like Bob always does, he brings things to the forefront that we're dealing with, and yeah, God, I've had an ongoing situation that hasn't always been in the forefront, but it's kind of came and went over the years, and just careful how I even talk about it, that it in no way reveals the person. that I'm referring to here. But yeah, I'm a member of a couple of different spiritual organizations that kind of supplement my life with Baba. And one of the members in one of these organizations that's pretty high up on the pecking order, what I feel puts himself out there as a pretty highly moral character that has, put me in my place a couple times for not, acting the way that I should, and, kind of rubbed me wrong. And I found out that this person who is married has been involved in quite a few extramarital sexual relationships. And a couple of them I ended up finding out were from close female friends of mine, and some at the time were quite young, barely over 20, and this person was quite old. So some of the age differences were even borderline on what was legal and not. So, at the time when I knew it was happening with a couple of my female friends, and that, oh my God, this is a pretty high up person in this organization, who's kind of flexed his muscle toward me a couple times, like, how I need to behave. And I'm finding this out, and it's just like, oh my God, what is going on here? I mean, this is, do I say something, to the higher ups above him? So I decided to keep quiet, that it wasn't going to help anybody to really divulge what was going on. I had heard that his wife was okay with these types of relationships. And when I heard that, I was like, well, everybody was consensual here and nothing illegal, although immoral. And so I need to just step out of the equation and not. So years later, some other things I found out have resurfaced here, and this person is potentially going to be moving into an even higher position of power, where they have, it's something that in a spiritual organization, I would feel that somebody of a high moral character would be in such a high leadership position. And to know that, this person has had so many of these illicit relationships with women, 30 plus years younger than him, drugs and alcohol involved, that I found out in a couple of the cases. So my thing was, wow, do you divulge these things to the higher up so this person doesn't step into yet another higher position of power and potentially destroy this organization? If I did say something, I believe the consequences of it would be so rearranging for this organization that it might not ever be the same again. I don't know if I would be able to go back if I said anything. But I believe if I didn't say something, the other people that could be hurt by this person rising into even higher power, that has its own potential negative consequences there. So I've offered it up to Baba, and especially with reading your email, Jeff, just the whole topic of this, I realize how much I have to love this person and forgive them in my heart. And to have that first, and then, from there, see if Baba would want me to do anything. I feel like I've gotten some communication from Baba to not do anything right now, that this is so delicate that it's best to go very, very slowly and to not do or say anything until the intuition becomes so deep that, I know it's time. So that's where I'm at with it right now, is forgiving him in my heart, not doing anything, giving it to Baba, and because this is so big, and just, just not letting my emotions, my human emotions, drive me into an action that could have pretty deep consequences. So I don't know. Hopefully that's not too much.
Wow, no. Yeah, but I think you're right when you're saying waiting around for a real substantial intuition, the moment, so that you're not just acting out of a reaction, but but just think of all the work that's got to go on inside of you to even get to such a place where you kind of have a conviction about what to do, that comes from the depth of you. Yeah. Sorry about that situation,
Yeah, in all honesty, on most days, I feel pretty at peace with it. I would say 80% of the time. And then you'll feel it rise up and you just kind of cringe at it of like, oh my God, like how can this happen? And you've got to say something about it. And it's like, no, that's just, some of the human emotions that have rose up, just relax. And usually it simmers back down, and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks go by, and I feel fine. But I kind of have that feeling way, way back there that one day it's going to be time to say something, but it's not quite that time yet. So.
Wow. Yeah, boy. It's amazing what we have to deal with. Let's go to Dinku first.
Dinku.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jai Baba, everyone. Jeff, I want to know if is this forgiveness or is it not? People that have affected you a lot, you've had a lot of resentment and hurt, and you reach a stage as time goes by that you can think about the situations, but they don't affect you anymore. Like, for example, I've had things with my ex-husband, my father, another friend, and it had really messed me up. And I had a lot of resentment and anger towards these people. And over time, it took me time to forgive them and realize that maybe it was some karmic connection that brought me to that level. And of course, through them, I think I got to Baba. But now, if something comes up and I think about the situation, it doesn't affect me anymore. So is that just letting go, or is that really forgiveness?
In other words, it's not getting triggered anymore in you, the kind of negative reaction to the way you've been treated.
Yes, I can look at it, from a distance, and it doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah, you may have. Yeah, I mean, this is just my opinion. I feel like you're done with that, taking that personally, and it, you're. I mean, we have a lot of people that have done things to us, and we don't think about it anymore. It's like it's so far in the past, or it's enough in the past, and the fact that it's not getting triggered in the present, sometime, or it's not affecting you in the same way, then you've kind of dealt with it. That's kind of my feeling.
So does forgiveness come in there as well? Because in a way, I have forgiven them, and I thank them also, because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have come to Baba.
Yeah, no, to me that sounds like forgiveness, even though it's not, like the classic type of forgiveness, but there's a gratitude. I mean, these people helped you. Who was the other one who, oh yeah, it was Marion who, through her ex, that helps when you know the role that they played in your life, and so that they weren't just a loose cannon. You know what I mean? They actually helped brought you to Baba. Hey, I'm gonna jump in here with something because this might be very interesting. I've shared this with some of you before, but I don't think I've ever done it on the late night chat. But it involves something that Baba conveyed to me in the tomb. And so I'm going to give a little background of this. I had this relationship a very dysfunctional relationship, a painful, hurtful relationship that went on for about 40 years. And it wasn't like, and a person, now I'm saying this, it might seem like I'm kind of backbiting the person, but if you keep listening, you'll find out that this person had a certain role to play. So anyway, this person was kind of authoritarian. He treated me like a second-class citizen. It wasn't even interested in me, and he would kind of authoritarian, and I could, things that I wanted to do for Baba would just get cut off, and it went on and on. But this person kind of held the face cards, and I had nothing but kind of, the 2 of clubs and the 7 of clubs. I had nothing but a low hand. So if I tried to work things out with this person, the person had so little interest in me that he wasn't interested in working out anything. So I was stuck. And years rolled by, and after about 70 years, one day, he wants to talk to me. Now, normally, he would never be interested in talking to me, but things maneuvered in such a way that he had to talk to me. So anyway, we got together, and I actually had his attention for like a short time. So I thought, well, I'm just going to give him some feedback on his behavior, how he's hurt me over the years, and hurt other people too, and just his attitude and he never had any remorse. He would do stuff and never apologize. So I kind of gave him a frank account, and I didn't mince words, but I remained respectful. And as I was talking with him, after about 15 minutes, I realized that what I was saying was just going in one ear and out the other. And so I decided, well, I'm going to talk to his soul. Now, I didn't even know what that meant, but talking to his personality self was not working. And at this point in my life, like most of us, I take what happens to me externally as a mirror of my interior. I think most of us kind of know that. And another thing that Baba said is the whole universe is inside of us. So anyway, I switched my camera angle, and I'm seemingly talking to this guy's soul. And I see him like at a distance, like a remote planet in my universe. And if it weren't for this guy, I never even knew this planet existed. And there was something cosmically funny about this. Like, this guy is actually in me. I mean, it was very, but anyway, so we had our talk, and after about 45 minutes, nothing, things just went in one ear and out the other. Nothing really happened. And so then 3 weeks later, I went to India. And I wasn't kind of preoccupied with this because I felt I'd been honest and I'd been respectful, even though I hadn't minced words. And so after about a week in India, I'm in the tomb. And it's the afternoon, this very expansive, loving atmosphere inside the tomb in the afternoon, and there's maybe a couple of people in there. And just sitting there kind of quietly with Baba. And then the scene of this guy and me just kind of floats through my consciousness. And Baba flashes this to me in a millisecond, a whole discourse. And, oh wait, darn it. Let me see if I wrote down what Baba said to me in there. Let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. So this is what Baba flashed, a whole discourse in a millisecond, and this is what he said. He said, Jeff, I'm putting that flash into English, you know. He said, Jeff, take my word for it 100%. Not in this lifetime, but in the past, you were just like him. You were very unkind and insensitive. You had no regard for how much your behavior hurt the heart of others. Through your indifference, you hurt people deeply. And the thing is, you never asked me for forgiveness for your behavior, which I would have readily given. Listen closely. This person has been in your life all these decades to bring you to this moment when you will ask me for forgiveness for how you have been in the past. I'll read that again because it was just, and I got it. Jeez. So, Jeff, take my word for it 100%. Not in this lifetime, but in the past, you were just like him. You were very unkind and insensitive. You had no regard for how much your behavior hurt the heart of others. Through your indifference, you hurt people deeply. And the thing is, you never asked me for forgiveness for your behavior, which I would have readily given. Listen closely. This person has been in your life all these decades to bring you to this moment when you would ask me for forgiveness for how you have been in the past. So here's what I did. This is what Baba did. I went inside my heart and I re-experienced deeply the pain and suffering that this person had, quote, made me feel, so to speak, over the years. I spent about 45 minutes, just re-feeling this thing. And I went on, and it's not like I had to make up anything. I had the actual experience that this hurt that this person had so-called caused me over the years. And this awakened a genuine remorse in me, and I said to Baba, I've hurt someone like this and made them feel miserable for decades. Baba, please forgive me. And it was not an abstract plea for forgiveness, because I was experiencing the actual pain and suffering in that moment. And I found that Baba was more than happy to forgive me. I felt that asking Baba for forgiveness was not as humiliating as I might have thought, but ennobling. I was being honest with myself for the first time about my past insensitivity, and insensitivity that I was totally unaware of, and who but Baba could forgive in the true sense. So in that flash, Baba made me feel with absolute certainty, without knowing any details, that in the past I had justified my insensitive behavior without remorse, indifferent to the effect it had on others. I had not even bothered to care that much. Their pain was their problem, so to speak. But Baba left no loopholes. He brought home to me the fact that I had such a strong, the fact that I had such a strong reaction to the insensitivity of this person in this life was a sure sign that I still had that in my system. If you spot it, you got it. That expression. And and I wonder, well, why didn't I see this before? But see, it's so counterintuitive. This guy should be asking me for forgiveness. That's the way we think about it. And here now I am asking Baba for forgiveness. So anyway, this is another way. Like, for example, if I had like a father was very abusive to me, by this kind of approach that Bob is saying, I say, I did this. I treated my son like this. This is how I treated him. And to feel it profoundly and deeply, because, like Baba was saying, when you were a father, you treated your son like this. And if you want to clear up the record, ask me for, feel it deeply. You know, like Darwin used to say, the deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. And ask Baba for forgiveness. I mean, I had never thought of such a way of conceiving all of this. Anyway, that was my 40-year sojourn. Oh, I'm going to tell you this though. When I came back from this all happened in India. When I came back, the person never treated me that way again. Why? Because his role was over. His role of reminding me of how hurtful I was in the past was over. And there was no problem after that. How amazing. Anyway.
Martha.
So that brings up this this thing that I believe that came to me years and years ago. It was after a break of a relationship, and I was really suffering. And I got this message that this man that has torn me apart, when we were both together in the beyond state before we came into this life, he loved me so much. He said, I will hold the position of pain and tearing you apart to teach you about yourself and your divinity. And when I got that thought, it just changed everything. Like everything became this strange gift, even the horrible heartache that I'd been suffering for years. And then that story that you told, Jeff, it's the best story about forgiveness. We've shared it. Diane has shared it. I've shared it. It's gotten a lot of mileage. But I think too, can't we just like think of everything like that in our life now? Like say that person that I had the forgiveness with today, you know, probably I did something before, you know, to her. And so I'm having to, you know, look at this part of myself. You know what I mean? So everything's so much a blessing in a strange way.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, just to give you kind of a simple example, if I'm on the highway and some young teenager kind of runs me off into the wrong lane and everything and is laughing as I frantically, you know, try to get back on the road, you know, I say, Baba, I did that. I've done that in the past. You know, please forgive me. And I can it clears it up. You know, previously, like, hey, no, why did this guy do this to me? And then he's laughing at me and right in my face. I did that. You know, you spot it, you got it. And so, you know, I mean, it helps on a lot of different things. You know, but it's like I say, a completely novel idea to me. Blocked by my lack of love and by my pride, you might say. Okay.
Brad. Brad.
J. Mayor Bob All.
Yeah.
You know, Jeff, that incident in your life which occurred actually had and I first came out laughing at it for some reason because I felt like just in the beginning what you were saying, how he treated you like a second-class citizen and he had all this authoritarian, and you know, sometimes those who are in power operate beyond the curtain, you know, underneath the scenes of it all, underneath the body work of it all. And so I guess, but it brought me laughter, but it also brought me tears toward the end when you were crying, because like the shadow of Jesus, I've never read the Bible, but I think the shadow of Jesus remains strong to this day. Yeah, Jesus was persecuted. He was hurt. He was abused. He was these things are beyond dispute. They are very true to our society even today. And though I haven't read the Bible and I've only gotten a little bit into it, I think that, you know, it's a very sad state of circumstances when you have, as Baba put it in the very beginning of the nothing and the everything, when you have power which is contained within the confines of those who are at the flip of a switch to transform the whole human race into a chaotic mess, or a troubled society because of these sensory differences. Baba comes forth to take hold of that custody of power and put it where it needs to belong, in the hands of God, not in the hands of those select few who choose to abuse and manipulate authority.
Yeah, no, it's what a world, what a world. Hey,
Yeah.
so let's see who's
Rich, yes.
Did you say Rich?
Yeah, Rich.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, well, Jeff, your story reminds me of the biggest story of forgiveness in my life occurred long ago. And I had a very difficult relationship with my father. And it was all growing up. And I didn't understand it at all. And as I got into the teenage years, my animosity was probably there. And it was very difficult for them. Well, I ended up in 77 and 78. In 78, I was on the center. And without telling you the whole story, I was leaving. And I was sort of heartbroken why and how. But anyway, I was leaving the center the next day, and I had misbehaved on the center, let's put it that way. Anyway, it was a huge deal for Elizabeth, because Elizabeth didn't want anything going on in the center she didn't like. But in any case, so I was in the original kitchen, and there were some people playing some music on a little tape recorder way back when, at 78. And one of them was, I believe it was Welcome to My World. But I was really in this really, really dark space, and I was listening to this, and they were enjoying the music. And suddenly I had this sort of dream consciously. And I had walked into this little music hall where there was some music, and it was an old, think of it as an old Kansas Grange Hall type thing. And I walked in and I heard some music, and I walked up to the microphone where the people were singing. It turned out to be my mother and father. And as I looked up into my father's eyes, it was Meher Baba's eyes. And so that eventually changed my entire life and my attitude towards my father. It just really opened my heart, sort of broke my heart. And then there was a bigger part to that story. But so then sometime later, I attended a wedding of my cousin. My father and mother were there. I hadn't seen them for a long time. And I went over, I think in my mind and heart, it was to ask forgiveness but I didn't know what to say. I was, too ill-equipped and young. But anyway, from that point on, Baba began helping me very, very actively. And of course, I went to the center several times. But that was the beginning of me understanding something even deeper in this regards to what you were saying, Jeff.
Yeah.
I finally realized, I just saw it one day, and this was a few years ago now, but imagine if you had your first son, who somehow you couldn't connect to, and it really hurt you. It was very, very difficult. There was no way to connect with this child, this boy. And so you had to learn to live with it. And it wasn't fun. It was difficult. And then I realized in a moment, Baba helped me to accept complete responsibility for my role and how I thought my father had reacted to me, but it was really all he could do. And he was objectively, he was pretty good about it, but, but it was my own doing, from somewhere. I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich. No, this is just to see Baba in your father's eyes. Sometimes something like that, and people have had such experiences, and it changes everything because it's no longer just your father, just this person. You're seen behind the disguise, so to speak. Okay.
Margie.
Hi. So so I feel like I've been sitting with this with Baba for a very long time. And I've just been asking him, like, how do I forgive? How do I forgive? How do I forgive? And sometimes he comes through in times when you don't expect it. And so after I said that, I got this flash of insight that Baba kind of said to me, you've been trying to forgive your dad for all these things, and you've been mad at your dad for all these things, or whatever it is. And I feel like Baba just said to me, you have never forgiven me. And I never looked at it that way. I never thought, oh, I need to forgive Baba, because I think there's a part of me that is really mad at Baba, because I feel like Baba's responsible for everything. And then it was like Baba was saying to me, like, I'm almost giving my dad too much credit. Like, Baba orchestrated this so perfectly for me to, it was the exact role I was supposed to be in. And it's almost like Baba is giving me the feeling inwardly that, like, he's jealous that I'm putting this forgiveness, or this wanting to forgive, on my dad, when really all of this thought and love that I'm trying to figure out how to give to my dad is really what Baba is craving.
Excellent. Really. I mean, that is you're very fortunate to have, that's a PhD level, you might to see it that way. Wow. Beautiful. Go ahead. I mean, I'm just breaking in there. You might have more to say.
No, that was it, but it was just, I feel like this has kind of been like a long-term thing. And obviously I was supposed to get on this call tonight, and Baba gave me this beautiful insight of he's mad that I'm not mad at him and not spending all of my energy trying to forgive him. And that's why it's not working, so to speak, is because there's nothing to forgive of my dad, because my dad never did anything to me. It was all Baba.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time to see that Baba's the master puppet and we're all his hand puppets. So, he just working through other people at us, Danny's there, you've got the,
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do with Margie and see if we can get out of her. Okay, but, okay, I think we're coming down to the home stretch.
Peter.
Yeah, hello again. I wanted to make comment about what Anthony had said. I think Anthony has the right answers, but to put emphasis on it. But from what I just heard, make a quick comment. I remember after I got clean and came to Mayor Baba, I told my friend that I was pissed at Baba. And he says, well, why don't you tell him? And I'm sitting there in shock, like, you can tell God you're mad at him? It's like, sure, tell him. And I said, Baba, I'm mad at you. And he says, I'm glad you finally admitted it. So I think I was scared to reveal to Mayor Baba how mad I was at him. On the other hand, when it comes to Anthony, I hope this isn't out of place. I remember several times it happened, when I had a vision of what my father had done, and I needed or wanted to find out more, it had to do with another family member. And I remember when I brought the issue to my therapist, I said, could you please go to your roundtable of therapists and ask them their advisement? And he said, Peter, when he did that, he says, it's 50-50 right down the middle. Half the people say, bring the family member in. Half the people say, don't. So really, you have to pray on it. You have to go to God with this. You know, go with your gut instinct. And I remember when the pandemic hit, I'm such a naive person, and I had a lot of mentors, a lot of people I asked advice from, and also Jeff Wolverton. And I remember asking my friend what to do with this, what to do with that. He's a very spiritual guy, very worldly. And when the pandemic hit, I was getting the same answer from him that drove me ape shit's batty. Excuse my French. He says, Peter, no one knows anything anymore. No one knows anything. I cannot advise you anymore. He says, you have to go to God with this, which I didn't want to do, but he said, you have to go to God with this because nobody can really answer your question for you. And when I think of Anthony being in that tough position, I mean, what I would do is I'd ask as many people as I could trust, and then ultimately go inward to get the best answer that there is. Sometimes I say our gut is God, that it can't lie to us. So I don't envy Anthony's position, but just to emphasize, going to Baba with this, and he's going to be the best director, the best advisor that there is. And I'll pass with that. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, some of these things are so over our head that you gotta go to Baba. I mean, this is like way over, or way beyond my depth. Yeah. So that we'll make Tony the last one, and then if I'm trying to see if there's anybody who has a final quote that might be appropriate before a moment of silence. But go ahead, Tony.
Mayher's here, Jeff.
Mayor Prasad?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. We'll see if that guy can, Google something. Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, Jay Baba. I'm feeling I'm full of a lot of emotion right now, and I'm having a bit trouble making sense of it all. Everything I've been hearing, there are so many facets of forgiveness, and there are so many lessons in forgiveness, and there are times to have to go deep within yourself and your personality and your wounds, sometimes to withdraw projections that you've put on other people, recognizing there was a time where every time I turned around there was a sociopath in my life, and Baba's humor, and I did come to that realization that I must have been that. I couldn't be encountering just because Baba wants to give me a master class in sociopathy. Did work with Alice Miller's books. It's a psychologist, Alice Miller, who was in her early books, she was the darling of the psychological world, but then she had her real breakthrough and wrote from there. And I did a lot of work on myself with that. On the other hand, at the beginning of this, I just wanted to bring up A Course in Miracles, which I've been part of me since 1994. And the Course, in a way, although it reveals so many things about the ego, but it's about forgiveness and how the ego thrives on the holding of grievances. And it's not about the person or the situation you're holding the grievances about. It's about your own ego wanting to perpetuate its separateness acutely. Now, this may seem to conflict with the psychological approach, but it doesn't. They're all different levels of the thing. What I have found, and I didn't share because I thought this will sound so trite, because I can see what people are going through. And I've been through, I think, each thing I've heard tonight at that stage. Oh, God, I said that and I feel like I'm talking about myself in a way that's not. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. I didn't want to share because it was going to sound rather trite. But in the last year, I've really gotten what Course in Miracles was saying about forgiveness. I had to always put that aside because there's so many insights and wonderful, helpful things. And I've started using it. And there's one little prayer in there or a suggestion that one lesson is God is the love in which I forgive. God is the love in which I forgive you. God is the love in which I forgive myself. And it cuts through, again, what the Course calls forgiveness to destroy, where the ego uses forgiveness to just be spiritual or better. But I have found using this, I use it as an instinct now. When I'm ready to be offended or angry or caught up with something or to dwell on the wrong that I see someone doing with me, is I'll immediately say, God is the love in which I forgive you, so-and-so, or Baba, yours is the love in which I forgive this person. Yours is the love in which I forgive myself, even if I don't see where I need to forgive myself for anything. Just saying it sincerely is powerful. Asking Baba, that's the other thing. When there's a life situation like what Anthony shared, it's more than just the forgiveness. It's the whole situation. And I for me, in some comparable thing, not that, obviously that's not my situation, I'm going to be asking Baba, what do you want me here? What role do you want me to play here? Why do you have me here? Am I pursuing something in me that I want to act out, or is it your wish for me? Because I want to follow your wish at this point. I know that's when I feel most happy. And so I just trusted Baba when I raised my hand, because I didn't know what I was going to say, and I think I finished.
Yeah. No, good. Before we get a quote from Mara Prasad, if he's found one, I want to just read Baba's own words again, because it's why it is so difficult to forgive. And Baba says, you forgive a wrong done to you in the same measure in which you love the wrongdoer. And it's very difficult when you don't have much love for somebody to forgive them. And but it's love and increasing the love with Baba that enables us to actually do the impossible, forgive, and forget and forgive. Okay, so let's have one last quote here, and then we will disappear into the ether that we originally came from. Yeah.
Okay. I think Gohar also has one. I see her picking something, but I'll read this and maybe she can. Remember in the future that when anyone hurts you, it is I who hurt you. When anyone loves you, it is I who love you. When anyone laughs at you, it is I who am laughing. When you love anyone, it is I whom you love. I am in all things. How can you realize my infinite presence if you shrink from me in those who hurt you and welcome me only in those who please you?
Beautiful. And Goa, did you have a quote there, or?
Yes, I've been reading Forgiveness, this book by Laurent Whiteberger.
Yeah.
In there, he has a quote of Baba's from Listen Humanity. And the quote is, I can forgive. I have come to forgive. Forgiveness is the highest thing for those who are forgiven. It is not a great thing for me to forgive. In fact, in reality, there is nothing to be forgiven, for there is really nothing like good and bad. You find them so, and they are there in duality due to your own bindings in duality. In the bondage of duality, there is good and there is bad. But in reality, everything but God is zero. Maya, which causes you to mistake illusion for reality, is present for you, but not for me. For me, only I am, and nothing else exists. It therefore means nothing for me to forgive, and everything for you to be forgiven. Jai Baba.
So let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba. Thank you all for being so forthright and sharing. This was really very, very touching for me.
Jeff, you'll be going to India on 11th?
Yeah, I'm leaving on Tuesday. I'm
So
getting out of this country, huh?
Margie would be taking doing the
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you mentioned Margie, because I'm inviting Margie to get some of the younger generation.
We already have some that are going to join on for sure.
What's that?
We're already going to have some. Like I talked to Torian, Joshua, Walter Dang. I'm sure there'll be others.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do my best.
Yeah, and I've got something to send to you. But what I mean is that we'll hear how, in their own words, how Baba shows up in their lives, as you know, as we all share here. So this is I will try to tune in if I can from India, just to hear. And also here's one thing that's we used to do this after the effort and grace of a thing called a heart-centered meditation led by a guy named Stu Baker. He's going to do that the second Wednesday of every month. So this coming Wednesday at 7 o'clock, he's going to do that. It's a short meditation, but it goes very deep with Baba, and then it has, in that state of love, that love is shared with someone you having problems with, or someone you just feel like sharing the love with, or a group of people, whatever, and then it comes back to you again, and it's actually has a great depth to it, and I highly recommend it. And that's, like I say, Wednesday at 7, and I'm sure I won't be able to. I'd love to be there because it's been very helpful for me, because you can work through problems you've had with certain people in your life by getting into that deep state of love and then sharing it with that person. And it's not like some lengthy 3-hour meditation where you start to get uncomfortable in where you're sitting, but it's short enough that you can get to the heart deeply. Anyway, so thank you all for sharing. This is we could we could revisit this subject sometime in the future. Well, I mean, like I say, we've done self-forgiveness, and that's another whole thing that we've discussed before. And I hope some ways people have shared that will be helpful. So
Have a great trip.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
Yes, Jeff. Have a Baba-filled trip.
A wonderful trip.
And what I enjoy is outside the tomb there, I think of each one of you, visualize you,
Oh,
I start on California and I work my way across.
Okay.
Eventually down to Florida and then up to the Chapel Hill area and then to Myrtle Beach.
Don't
Wonderful.
forget Colorado, Jeff.
And,
I know.
and New York City, me.
I go from New Jersey, you know, Prakash and them over to you, and you know, and then Jay Seema's over there in Connecticut, and I go up through upstate New York to. Well, anyway,
Okay.
kind of neat.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Wonderful topic.
Have a wonderful trip, Jeff. Jay Baba.
Yeah,
Jay Baba.
I'll see Dinku in a few days, and
Yeah.
a few days, and different ones.
Really looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jeff.
Travels and happy.
Nasreen here, or is to ring off the bouncer lady?
Ring off the bell, yes. I am.
Okay.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Okay, get a good night's sleep with that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.